Part 7. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 61. Under the watch of almost half of the people in the imperial city, Feng Jinzi, with burning embarrassment and anger, and the greatest humiliation he had ever suffered in his life, finally knelt every 3 steps and walked to the gate of Feng Xiangfu. His face was pale, cold sweat dripped down, and his whole body was exhausted and haggard. His 2 knees were worn out, his hands were red and swollen, and the old wounds had not healed and new wounds were added. The once powerful and noble son was now in a state of embarrassment. Madame Feng was so distressed that she burst into tears. What happened? She stepped forward to help her son up, angry, and distressed, her eyes unconsciously reddened. The eldest princess, she went too far. What has the son who used to be so bright and clear been tortured into now? Damn Chu Qing Huang. I can't get rid of the hatred in my heart even if I cut that damn bitch into pieces. The Prime Minister stood aside, his face gloomy and angry. What's going on? Didn't I ask you to try to coax the princess? Father, calm down. Feng Jinzi's voice was hoarse and dry, his whole body was sore, weak and powerless, and even his voice sounded a little floating. I went to the princess to ask for peace today. The condition she proposed was to let her son kneel from the princess's mansion to the door of the Feng family, and said that if her son could do it, she would forgive me. She is simply too much. Ms. Feng was furious before she finished listening, and the gritted teeth in her words were almost uncontrollable. You are the son of the Prime Minister's mansion after all, why does she humiliate you like this? Mother Feng Jinzi reminded, his lips were white and peeling. There are many people watching outside. Mother, please be careful when you speak, if it gets to the princess's ears, I'm afraid. Prime Minister. A steady middle-aged voice sounded, and everyone looked up. A carriage came slowly, and a middle-aged man in a grey robe sat in front of the carriage. When the carriage stopped outside the gate, the man got off and bowed to Prime Minister Feng. I am the housekeeper of the princess's mansion. I am here on the orders of Her Highness to pack up Mr. Feng's clothes, supplies, paper, pens, and books. Please check them and receive them, Prime Minister and Madam. Prime Minister Feng froze when he heard this. What did you say? Her Highness the Princess ordered me to deliver Mr. Feng's clothes and supplies and some books I brought to the princess's mansion. Before the housekeeper turned around and pointed to the carriage. They are all here. Please check them, Prime Minister and Madam. Prime Minister Feng looked very ugly. What does Her Highness the Princess mean by this? The Prime Minister doesn't know yet. The housekeeper was a little surprised, and then explained, Her Highness has divorced the prince consort. From now on, Mr. Feng is free and is no longer in a husband and wife relationship with the princess. Feng Jinzi's expression was stiff, and he slowly raised his head. What did you say? The housekeeper's expression was subtle. Are the father and son of the Feng family not hearing well? Why do they need to repeat over and over again? But forget it, since Her Royal Highness the Princess has ordered him to do something, he must make it clear and get it done. So the housekeeper patiently repeated it again, this time in more detail, word for word. Her Royal Highness the Princess knows that Mr. Feng was not willing to marry into the princess's mansion before, and he has suffered some grievances in the princess's mansion over the past year. Her Royal Highness has learned from her pain and decided to let Mr. Feng go free, so she gave him a letter of divorce. From today on, Mr. Feng and Her Royal Highness the Princess will be married and have nothing to do with each other. Her Royal Highness the Princess is kind, and in view of the sincerity of Mr. Feng's apology today, the previous offenses will end here. Her Royal Highness has decided to forgive Mr. Feng. The street was as quiet as snow, as if even the wind had stopped. Ordinary civilians could not get close to the Prime Minister's mansion, so they did not know about the divorce letter for the time being. However, many dignitaries came specifically to watch the fun, so they naturally heard the housekeeper's words clearly, and their faces showed surprise. Her Royal Highness the Princess divorced Feng Jinzi? The Prime Minister's son was actually sent away by Her Royal Highness the Princess with a divorce letter? This. Didn't they say that Feng Jinzi was very favored in the princess mansion? Feng Jinzi's expression was stiff, and he was as dull as a stone sculpture for a long time without any reaction. His ears were buzzing, and the pain in his body was clamoring wildly at this time. He could even feel the mocking eyes, gloating eyes, and whispers like watching a joke outside, like a ruthless slap in his face. Feng Jinzi's body shook, his eyes went black, and he fell softly. Jinzi, Madame Feng panicked and quickly reached out to support her son. Someone help the eldest son to the inner courtyard to rest. Chun Tao, go get the doctor. Hurry up. Yes, madam. Prime Minister Feng waved his sleeves coldly and said angrily, close the door. The Prime Minister's mansion, which had been silent for several days, finally fell into chaos because of the return of the eldest son. The Prime Minister, who was overwhelmed by the affairs of the third prince, hated Chu Qing Huang to the core at this time. The door slowly closed, and the Prime Minister's face was gloomy and cold, and his voice was full of murderous aura. Chu Qing Huang, I can't coexist with you. Today will be a day when the Prime Minister's mansion loses face, and all this is thanks to Chu Qing Huang. Disperse. The crowd outside gradually turned around and left, accompanied by low whispers, and the air seemed to be filled with an uneasy atmosphere. Is Her Royal Highness the Princess planning to use the Feng family to accumulate merits recently? I always feel that the world is going to change. The man's low voice revealed an unusual meaning. First, it was the Minister of Revenue, Lord Hong, then the third prince, and then Feng Jinzi was divorced. Lord Hong and the Prime Minister's mansion are all loyal to the third prince. Is the princess going to deal with the third prince? Why would the princess deal with the third prince? It won't do her any good. Another voice was even lower and almost inaudible. I think it was Concubine Duan who took action. Yes, how could I forget Concubine Duan? The princess is the daughter of Concubine Duan. No matter how she messes around in her private affairs, she can't help others deal with her mother. After all the concubines in the harem are enemies, especially those who have princes to compete for the throne. They are even more mortal enemies. Concubine Duan must deal with Concubine Feng's party for her son. As the daughter of Concubine Duan and the sister of the fifth prince, it is normal for Chu Qing Huang to help her mother suppress her opponents. The few of them seemed to have finally figured out the key point, and they couldn't help but exchange glances. It seems that the court is really going to change. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 62. Those who didn't know the truth naturally thought that Chu Qing Huang was plotting for Concubine Duan and Chu Tianzheng, and even Concubine Duan and her son thought so. However, when the emperor issued an edict to promote Wen Xingyun to the position of Minister of Revenue, Concubine Duan, who was sitting in Ganquan Palace listening to the palace servants telling the story of Feng Jin's 3 kneelings and 9 kowtows, suddenly changed her expression, and the relaxed look on her face disappeared instantly. Wen Xingyun. Yes, mother. The 18-year-old Chu Tianzheng showed an unhappy look on his face. What's wrong with the seventh sister? Didn't mother tell her to recommend the second uncle before? Why was the person who was finally recommended Wen Xingyun? Concubine Duan looked cold. Come here, summon the eldest princess to the palace. Yes. Chu Tianzhen's face was not very good. It's useless for mother to summon her now. The emperor's decree has been issued and cannot be changed. Concubine Duan sat up and frowned. Don't worry. How can I not be anxious? Chu Tianzheng was furious. I have promised Ling Jing, and even boasted in front of him that I would let the second uncle enter the cabinet within 3 months. Who knew that Chu Qing Huang would suddenly do such a thing? Ling Jing is the eldest son of Ling Anja, the second uncle of the Ling family. He grew up with Chu Tianzheng since childhood. The two are of similar age and have a closer relationship than brothers. Because concubine Duan intended to let Ling Anja take charge of the Ministry of Revenue, she asked Chu Qing Huang to deal with the Minister of Revenue first, and after the fall of the Hong family, she naturally thought that Chu Qing Huang would do as she said and recommend Ling Anja to the emperor. She thought it was a done deal. So Chu Tianzheng couldn't wait to boast in front of Ling Jing, wanting to make Ling Jing happy, but who would have thought that the person who sat on the position of Minister of Revenue was Wen Xingyun. Chu Yunzhen almost fainted when he heard the news. Calm down first, wait for Qing Huang to come over and see what she says. Concubine Duan pondered for a moment, maybe there is still room for maneuver in this matter. Chu Tianzheng sat down with anger, and drank 2 cups of cold tea in a row before he suppressed his anger a little. Anyway, if Chu Qing Huang doesn't give him an explanation today, he will never let her go. So Feng Jinzi lost all face today. Concubine Duan turned to look at the head maid beside her and continued what she had just said. Prime Minister Feng must be very angry. I heard that Prime Minister Feng was so angry that his face turned blue. He ordered people to close the door in front of so many dignitaries. Concubine Duan said indifferently, Qing Huang liked Feng Jinzi before, and liked him like a madman. Why did she suddenly dislike him? This servant is not sure, and I have never heard anyone talk about it. The head maid replied respectfully, Her Royal Highness the Princess seems to have suddenly disliked him and has no feelings for him at all. It's better not to think about feelings. What kind of feelings can we talk about with the Feng family? Concubine Duan drank a sip of tea, her eyebrows and eyes were cold. Feng Jinzi lost all face today and became the laughing stock of the whole city. If he does, he will not be able to get along well with the legitimate sons of the noble families in the future. If he wants to save face, the Feng family must help Chu Tianyan win the throne. He snorted coldly, but it seems that it is as difficult as ascending to heaven at the moment. The head maid Yan Luo has always been favored by concubine Duan, so she is naturally bolder when she speaks. In my opinion, it is impossible for the third prince to win that position. In the past, there was Minister Hong, and Princess Ji of Jin was also a virtuous wife. However, now that Minister Hong is gone, Qi is gone too. When the king of Jinbei gets the news and goes to Beijing to ask for an explanation, the situation of the Prince of Jin will only become more difficult. How can it be easy to turn over? Concubine Duan held the teacup, and a smile of confidence appeared on her face. That's the truth. In fact, what Yan Luo said was not entirely correct. Qi was not the most important chess piece, and the fall of Minister Hong was not the fatal key to Chu Tianyan's victory or defeat. What really prevented him from turning over was the emperor's mind. Concubine Duan's eyebrows were slightly deep. The Feng family should never, ever, rely on the Queen Mother as a backer. The emperor hates the harem interfering in politics the most. If the queen or other concubines interfere in politics, the emperor can at least reprimand and punish them, but the Queen Mother is his mother. Whether it is out of filial piety or because of the emperor's status, he cannot disrespect his mother. But the harem interfering in politics is something that cannot be tolerated. Then who will the emperor vent his dissatisfaction on? Naturally, it is the culprit who relies on the Queen Mother as a backer, so the Feng family and the Hong family are clever but misguided. If the emperor wants to deal with the Feng family will have no way out. My queen, the princess is here. Concubine Duan raised her eyes and saw Chu Qing Huang, who was dressed in a dark red robe, walked in. She had a slender figure, a bright face, and a cold color lingering between her eyebrows. Qing Huang concubine Duan sat up straight and looked at Chu Qing Huang with some dissatisfaction. I asked you to come here for the position of Minister of Revenue. Chu Qing Huang said calmly, what's wrong with the position of Minister of Revenue? Why are you pretending to be stupid? Chu Tianzheng frowned and stared at her unhappily. Didn't mother ask you to recommend my second uncle to the position? Why did Wen Xingyun finally sit on the position of minister? Chu Qinghuang's eyes were slightly cold, and she looked at Chu Tianzheng expressionlessly. Chu Tianzheng was startled by her look, and his momentum unconsciously weakened by 3 points. Why are you looking at me? Chu Qinghuang was indifferent and said nothing. Concubine Duan was a little displeased when she saw this, but she suppressed her displeasure. Today, your father just issued an imperial decree to promote Wen Xingyun to the position of Minister of Revenue. I want to know what's going on. Chu Qinghuang said calmly, isn't Wen Xingyun also your man? The two assistant ministers of the Ministry of Revenue, one surnamed Yang and the other was Wen Xingyun. Concubine Duan frowned. Wen Xingyun is indeed her man, but Wen Xingyun is Wen Xingyun, a chess piece that can be sacrificed at any time. Can he be compared with the relatives of the Ling family? Power is always in the hands of one's own family to make people feel at ease. I want your second uncle. He works in the Ministry of Personnel. Duan Fei paused, so what? Chu Qinghuang's tone was indifferent, and no special emotions could be heard. I thought you said to promote him to be the Minister of Personnel. Duan Fei paused, and did not expect to hear such an explanation. You mean, there is a way to make your second uncle the Minister of Personnel? Chu Qinghuang said, it will take some time. Duan Fei was silent. She actually did not want the Ling family to contact the Ministry of Personnel, because Chu Tianling worked in the Ministry of Personnel. Even if Ling Anja took the position of Minister of Personnel, he could not control the power of the Ministry of Personnel. The Ministry of Personnel will always be decided by King Ling. Besides, Prince Ling's identity is somewhat sensitive. As the legitimate son of the former queen, Prince Ling is both the legitimate and the eldest son. The former queen died of dystocia, and he always has a different status in the emperor's heart. Prince Ling lost his mother since he was a child. The emperor has always been very caring for this eldest son. Even without his mother's protection, for the time being, the concubines in the harem are smart not to provoke him. Concubine Duan naturally doesn't want to. Even if you want to provoke him, you have to wait until the other princes are eliminated. Whoever touches Prince Ling first at this time is stupid. Concubine Duan pondered for a moment and tried to speak. Qinghuang, are you and Feng Jinzi completely at odds? Chu Qinghuang hummed lightly. In that case, I want you to marry Ling Jing, the legitimate eldest son of your second uncle. Concubine Duan looked at her and smiled gently. What do you think? Mother, Chu Tianzheng was surprised. Let the seventh sister marry Ling Jing. Concubine Duan nodded. This daughter is too unpredictable. Only by marrying Ling Jing to make the relationship closer can she feel at ease. Chu Qinghuang listened to her thoughts without showing any strange expression on her face. Do you want Ling Jing to enter the princess's mansion to be a servant? Concubine Duan's smile froze. What did you say? There are already 4 servants in my mansion. Ling Jing can only be the 5th. If he is willing, I have no objection. Concubine Duan's face was gloomy. I mean to let Ling Jing be your husband. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 63. I have just divorced a consort, and I have no plans to marry another one for the time being. Chu Qinghuang spoke calmly, obviously not thinking that he should give face to the woman in front of him. Besides, Ling Jing is not the type that I like, and he cannot be admitted to this palace. Concubine Duan squeezed the handkerchief in her hand and reminded her with a smile, Qinghuang, as a child, your mother should make the final decision on your marriage. Chu Qinghuang calmly did not respond. Even if the mother makes the decision, it is not Concubine Duan's turn. Her biological mother never said such a thing to her. Seventh sister, what's your attitude? Chu Tianzheng couldn't help but said angrily when he saw her being so cold. Can you act like a daughter in front of your mother and concubine? Chu Qinghuang glanced at him, turned around and walked out. Chu Qinghuang, Chu Tianzheng was extremely angry. Concubine, Look at her, she really has no rules at all. Concubine Duan frowned and stared at Chu Qinghuang's leaving figure with some indifference, and said calmly, there is no need to be angry. As long as she can do things for you and help you eliminate your opponents, the rest can be ignored for the time being. Chu Tianzheng thought it made sense when he heard it. Chu Qinghuang's violent temper has not lasted for a day or two. He should have gotten used to it. But in the past, because she liked Feng Jinzi, she had always been close to the Feng family. On the contrary, she always remained indifferent to concubine Duan and Chu Tianzheng towards this imperial brother. His distant attitude gave him no chance to lose his temper. Now that he had finally come to terms with Feng Jinzi, and was at odds with the Feng family, Chu Tianzheng subconsciously thought that Chu Qinghuang would only be able to rely on concubine Duan and him, the imperial brother, in the future, so he was dissatisfied with Chu Qinghuang's attitude, wanting to act like a royal brother and scold him. However, he forgot that Chu Qinghuang did not need to rely on anyone. Instead, the royal brothers who were competing for the throne wanted to win her over one by one, hoping to temporarily protect themselves and eliminate their opponents by winning her over. Chu Tianzheng frowned, although she is my sister, I still think she should be taught a lesson for such an unruly sister. Concubine Duan said nothing. A woman who doesn't even care about her mother and brother should really be taught a lesson. But she doesn't have to teach the lesson herself, she already has the right person. Chu Qinghuang met someone on the way out of the palace. A man who is feminine, handsome, and looks gentle and lean. He is in his early 20s. His facial features are not ugly, but he gives off a cold, snake-like appearance. Ling Jing, the legitimate son of the second wife of the Ling family whom concubine Duan wanted to marry. Your Highness, the eldest princess Ling Jing walked closer and his eyes fell on Chu Qinghuang's face, just came out of concubine Duan's palace. His face was very white, sickly white, and his voice had a slightly uncomfortable tone. Chu Qinghuang glanced at him expressionlessly, and was about to pass by when he heard the other party say, I came to the palace today because of the eldest princess. Chu Qinghuang paused slightly, really? And concubine Duan wants to marry you to me, Ling Jing said, his tone sounded very calm, so calm that he felt like he had everything under control. I hope that after we get married, His Highness can take care of the servants in the backyard of the princess's mansion. Jundu is dismissed. Although I know that you have never had any relationship with them outside of ethics, this relationship itself has exceeded the scope of ethics. Chu Qinghuang originally didn't want to talk to him. For a person who makes people feel disgusted when they first meet, she feels that saying one more word or giving him one more look is a waste of time. However, Ling Jing's words made her want to laugh. Ling Jing, she tilted her head slightly, her indifferent eyes filled with scorn and mockery, as if she were looking at an ant. Are you talking to me? Ling Jing's expression paused and he nodded slowly. I am indeed talking to Her Royal Highness, the eldest princess. Since you know that I am the eldest princess, shouldn't you kneel at my feet right now? Chu Qinghuang said in a cold tone. Do you need me to teach you the rules? Ling Jing's expression changed slightly, and then he bowed and saluted calmly, with the demeanor of a gentleman. Your Majesty, Ling Jing, I have met Her Royal Highness, the eldest princess. Don't you understand what I'm saying? Chu Qinghuang said coldly. Kneel down. Ling Jing was silent for a moment, a coldness flashed across his slightly narrowed eyes, and then he lifted up his robe and knelt down. Isn't it okay to kneel down? Chu Qinghuang mocked. I thought you couldn't understand human speech. Ling Jing's expression was calm. What I am doing is the courtesy of a monarch and a minister. I just want to remind the eldest princess to obey her father at home and her husband when she gets married. Your Highness should take a good look at the 3 obediences and the 4 virtues recently. When you pass through the Ling family's door in the future. After passing the Ling family's door, Chu Qinghuang said coldly, Ling family, do you want to go back and look in the mirror? Ling Jing's expression changed slightly, and a sinister look appeared in his eyes. How many servants there are in my palace have nothing to do with you. It's not your turn to teach me how to do things. Chu Qing Huang was condescending and did not hide his gaze. If you don't want to end up like Feng Jinzi, in the end, just be calm and remember your identity, and don't think about something that doesn't belong to you. Even if you are just the eldest princess's consort, you have no chance. After leaving these words, she turned and left. Your Highness, the eldest princess Ling Jing raised his eyes. I will also go to the Chu Shui Shui Shang poetry party on April 18th. I hope your Highness will appreciate it. Chu Qing Huang paused slightly and said calmly, kneel here for half an hour to reflect on your arrogance and rudeness. Ling Jing clenched his hands and stared at the woman's leaving figure without saying a word. The color in his eyes was deep and strange. Chu Qing Huang, the eldest princess of Ziki. She is of noble status, violent temperament, and beautiful appearance. Ling Jing raised the corner of his mouth slightly, and a determined light appeared. It is challenging to conquer such a woman, isn't it? He has begun to imagine the scene after she marries him, and the room specially prepared for her. He is different from Feng Jinzi, the idiot. He has many ways to make this woman surrender, break her pride, let her learn to bow her head and obey, learn the 3 obediences and 4 virtues, and let her understand the truth that the husband is the heaven. He also wants to let her know that women in this world are only worthy of kneeling at the feet of men and lingering on. Disobedient women will be severely punished. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 64. Ling Jing is Ling Ange's legitimate son. He has been frail since he was a child and has never been in good health. He practiced martial arts originally to strengthen his body. Later, he became quite good at martial arts. He is considered to be both civil and military. Fu Kang knelt in the carriage and took Ling Jing's body. The details were reported to Chu Qing Huang in detail. In addition to martial arts, Ling Jing is also good at poisoning. He has little contact with the princes of the imperial family. He often stays alone in the house to study poisons and likes to test poisons on maids. Chu Qing Huang remained silent. She knew a little bit about Ling Jing because she had the memory of the original owner in her mind. When she got close to Ling Jing just now, she used her mind-reading skills to hear a little bit about him. A venomous snake indeed. However, there are many types of venomous snakes, some are extremely venomous, and some are not worthy of mentioning. Ling Jing's level is still far behind. It's just that the Ling family seems to be a little self-righteous. Have they become a little arrogant after being in power and being favored over the years? Concubine Duan has been favored in the harem for 20 years, and her popularity has almost eclipsed that of the current queen. Although the battle for the prince is a four-legged struggle, it is clear that Concubine Duan and her son have the greatest advantage. In addition to Concubine Duan being the most favored by the emperor, the Ling family's military power also gave them the confidence to be arrogant. No wonder Ling Jing didn't take it lightly. After all, no matter how powerful Chu Qing Huang was, she was just a princess. Even though this princess is a little more powerful in martial arts, a little more noble, and a little more violent than ordinary women. All the civil and military officials were a little wary of her, especially after they ransacked the Hong family this time. But the Ling family has nothing to fear. A man with 200,000 soldiers in his hands is confident in front of the emperor, let alone facing a princess. Chu Qinghuang's voice was calm. Ling Anken has been in charge of the military for a long time. I want the 100,000 silver armored troops in his hands. Fu Kang lowered his eyes. Go down and kill him. Chu Qinghuang glanced at him. Don't kill people easily, I'm not ready to kill him yet. Yes. The carriage suddenly stopped. Chu Qinghuang frowned. What happened? Your Highness, in front of us is the 6th princess's carriage. The servant replied. The 6th princess has no intention of getting out of the way. Well, the 6th princess has gotten off the carriage. Chu Qinghuang said nothing. Not long after, Chu Yuling's voice sounded outside, "Seventh sister." Chu Qinghuang sat on the couch and did not move. Min Jiao stepped forward and opened the car curtain. Chu Qinghuang saw Chu Yuling standing outside the car and asked indifferently, "Is something wrong?" Chu Yuling's face was a little pale and much more haggard than the last time he saw her. "Can I talk to Kime?" Chu Qinghuang lowered his eyes slightly and looked at her hands hanging by her side. "What do you want to talk to me about?" "Talk about Feng Jin. Feng Jinzi has returned to the Prime Minister's mansion. If you want to say anything to him or do what you want to do, you can go directly to the Prime Minister's mansion instead of coming to me," Chu Qinghuang said calmly. "I have already given him a letter of divorce. Feng, I have nothing to do with him from now on." Chu Yuling's face seemed a little paler. "Seventh sister." Chu Qinghuang said calmly, "Are you wondering how I could walk out of the Wen family safe and sound last night?" Chu Yuling's face suddenly changed. "Chi, what is Kime saying?" I can't understand." "Don't you understand?" Chu Qinghuang twitched the corner of her lips. "I will pretend that you don't understand, but in the future, please don't bring it up in front of me about Chu Tianyan and Feng Jinzi. I'm very busy and don't have time to pay attention to them." With that said, he ordered, "Go back home." However, the next moment, Chu Yuling knelt down directly in front of the carriage. "Seventh sister, please show your noble hand and let the third emperor brother live." On the streets where people were coming and going, dignitaries stopped at this sudden scene. Among them were officials of the dynasty, students studying, legitimate daughters of aristocratic families, and princes of the royal family. Seeing this scene, the crowd rang out harsh accusations. "The seventh princess is so outrageous. She actually asked her sister to kneel down for her in the street. Is there any royal law in this world?" "What do you know?" someone retorted. "The seventh princess just raided Hong Shangshi's mansion recently and did not do anything to the third prince. The third prince was unlucky and met the princess stealing someone, and was killed by the third prince's sword. What does it have to do with the seventh princess?" But you can't let your sister kneel down in the street. How is this inappropriate? The seventh princess is really violent." The young master of the Ding family said coldly, "The seventh princess is so arrogant that she can even humiliate her own sister. It is so outrageous. I must tell my father and ask him to impeach the seventh princess in front of the emperor tomorrow. The seventh princess has now been canonized as the eldest princess. Your title must be changed. Whether she is the seventh princess or the eldest princess, the elders and younger ones are in order. Royal brothers and sisters should lead by example. How can you let your sister kneel down in the street?" "Yes, you can only let your sister kneel down in the street. Obviously it was the sixth princess who knelt down on her own, but are you all blind?" Chu Qinghuang sat in the carriage, listening to the whispers on both sides of the long street. There was no special expression on his face, and he only repeated coldly, "Aren't you leaving yet?" "Yes." The carriage started moving quickly. Chu Yuling was kneeling and didn't move. She was betting that Chu Qinghuang wouldn't have the guts to pass over her. However, when the carriage rushed over without stopping at all, she was so frightened that she almost lost her wits. He ducked aside in embarrassment. The carriage from the princess's mansion sped away, leaving only a cloud of dust behind. Chu Yuling was so frightened that she broke out in a cold sweat. She stared at the carriage in shock, clenching her hands tightly. The needle hidden in her palm instantly pierced into her flesh. She suddenly let go of her hand in pain and looked down at her open palm. The place pierced by the needle tip turned black. Chu Yuling's face changed, and she quickly got up and walked towards her carriage. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 65. The purpose of Chu Yuling's stop in the street was naturally not to induce the ministers to impeach Chu Qinghuang. Impeachment was not painful at all for Chu Qinghuang, who had his own way of doing things. Her purpose was to make her die, and the more miserable her death would be. Good. If Chu Qinghuang does not die, others will not have a good life. However, it is obviously not that easy to kill Chu Qinghuang. Chu Yuling got on the carriage, looked at the black blood seeping out of her palms, and said coldly, "Drive to Prince Jin's mansion, hurry up." Yes. No one dared to remind her at this time that the king of Jin was now the king of Jin County and could no longer be called the king of Jin. Chu Yuling was Chu Tianyan's biological sister, so she naturally turned to her imperial brother. Ji was sent back to the palace by the palace staff, and was ordered by the emperor to spend a month in seclusion. During this period, he was not allowed to step out of the palace gate without an edict. Even concubine Feng couldn't see her son. Fortunately, Chu Yuling could help her mother and concubine take care of her brother, while not giving up making suggestions. The door of Jinjun Prince's mansion was closed tightly. Chu Yuling entered from the side door, and followed the servants directly to Chu Tianyan's bedroom. The injured Chu Tianyan was lying on the bed to rest. Next to him was a female doctor in her 30s. Taking care of. And Ade Chu Yuling quickly walked into the room. "Give me the antidote quickly." The female doctor was shocked when she saw the black blood on her palm. "Her Royal Highness, has she been poisoned?" "I was careless," Chu Yuling said in a cold tone, watching Adai put a layer of medicine on her hand, and handed her a black pill that exuded a bitter taste for her to take. "Your Majesty just fell asleep." Chu Yuling took the antidote, walked to the chair in front of the bed, sat down, and said coldly, "The past 2 days have been like a boat capsized in the gutter, and it fell into the hands of Chu Qinghuang. I really don't want to get it back. It's hard to let go of the hatred in my heart." Adai was silent for a moment. "In my opinion, it is better for the princess to take care of the prince these 2 days. The 7th princess can let others deal with it first, and we will avoid the edge for the time being." "Leave it to others to deal with," Chu Yuling frowned. "Now the civil and military officials of the entire court avoid her like snakes and scorpions. Who dares to deal with her? I have just learned that just before Her Royal Highness the princess met the 7th princess, the 7th princess also met Ling Jing, the legitimate son of the second wife of the Ling family, in the palace." Adai smiled. With a deep smile, concubine Duan deliberately brought the 7th princess to the palace. "Marry Ling Jing." Chu Yuling was surprised when she heard this. "Marry Chu Qinghuang to Ling Jing. What combination is this? The 7th princess is not easy to control. Concubine Duan may be worried that this daughter is too unruly and will not be controlled by her, so she came up with the idea of letting her marry Ling Jing." Adai said lightly, "The 7th princess will not." "Yes, this will create a rift between mother and daughter. If the rift gets bigger and the dissatisfaction accumulates, the mother and daughter will naturally turn against each other." Chu Yuling was silent and thoughtful. "My servant also learned that the legitimate son of the Ling family is determined to win the 7th princess." Chu Yuling raised her eyebrows slightly. "Aiming to win? Where does he have such confidence?" With Chu Qinghuang's temper, even though she wanted to kill her, Chu Yuling still had to admit that Chu Qinghuang's martial arts was first-rate and powerful, and now that she had the title of eldest princess, she was even better than the direct princess under the queen's knees. "How could you, noble, like that indifferent Ling Jing?" She had met the legitimate son of the Ling family, but not many times, and her first impression was not very good. He was so sinister that people couldn't help but want to stay away from him. The 7th princess was also unhappy with him. When she met him in the palace, she ordered him to kneel down and gave him a blow. Adai frowned. "Concubine Duan will know about this soon." She just said the 7th princess gave young Master Ling a blow when it came to the marriage. Concubine Duan will definitely be dissatisfied with this, and may even think that this is a provocation from the 7th princess. In this way, wouldn't the rift between mother and daughter be forged? Chu Yuling nodded slowly. "You are right." Although she didn't know why Ade was so well informed and knew what had just happened in the palace so quickly, but since the Queen Mother asked her to take care of her brother, it meant that she must be special. So Her Royal Highness the Princess should stay calm during this period and not be hasty in dealing with the seventh Princess. Adai said, with the princess gone, Her Royal Highness the Princess must put more thought into taking care of the prince and stay away from the place of right and wrong first. When the princess was mentioned, Chu Yuling looked a little unhappy. She always felt that the affair between Princess Ji and the commander of the royal guards was too unreasonable, but now that there was no evidence, she couldn't find out the truth. Chu Yuling was silent for a moment. In that case, do you think I will go to the Chu Shui Shui Shangxi meeting, or not? Of course I want to go, Adai said. Not only are you going to this poetry gathering, but also no matter what the occasion is in the future, wherever the seventh princess is, you can go, Your Highness, but remember not to confront the seventh princess directly. Chu Yuling nodded. There are always a few impulsive and irritable noble ladies from aristocratic families who can be exploited at the poetry party. The seventh princess has an intolerable temper. If someone offends her, she will definitely take revenge. Once there are more people taking revenge, she will make more and more enemies. There are many villains among them. When Chu Yuling heard this, she nodded repeatedly and couldn't help but smile. Adamo was a person who had served the Queen Mother for many years. I am afraid that many people could not match her scheming skills. She smiled and said sincerely, Aunt Adai, you are such a smart woman. With you by my side, I can rest assured. Your Highness Princess, there is no need to praise the prince. This servant has also been ordered by the Queen Mother to take care of the prince. Naturally, she will consider everything for the prince. Adai turned to look at Chu Tianyan. This servant has watched the prince grow up. Seeing how injured he is now, this is really unpleasant, but the palace has always had good fortune and misfortune, so this misfortune is not necessarily a bad thing for His Highness. Chu Yuling was puzzled. Isn't it a bad thing? Adai nodded. Now that the seventh princess is in the limelight, she will inevitably offend others. If the prince avoids it, other people whose interests will be harmed will come forward. When the seventh princess takes care of those princes one by one, Our Highness may you can reap the benefits of being a fisherman. Chu Yuling understood immediately, and the more he listened, the more he felt that what she said made sense. If she had known earlier, she should have avoided the limelight of Chu Qinghuang earlier, and let Jinzi stay in the eldest princess's mansion and be a consort in peace, which is better than being abandoned and going home now with all her face lost. And Adai is right. Chu Yuling took a deep breath. There is nothing wrong with avoiding his edge for the time being. When all the princes vying for the heir apparent are dead, are you still afraid that your brother will not have a chance? Moreover, as long as their mother and concubine do not fall out of favor and still sit in the position of noble concubine, they will not worry that the emperor's brother will not have the chance to regain the throne in the future. If the princes make a fuss and lose all, maybe the father will just kill the three of them. The royal brother established a crown prince. While Chu Yuling was making wishful thinking, there was a sudden outburst in Ganquan Palace. Concubine Duan, who had always been gentle, looked calm, and even her voice was a little colder. Qing Huang wants Ling Jing to kneel down. Yes, Your Majesty. Yan Luo nodded, and he knelt on the palace road where people come and go. This is nonsense. Concubine Duan's expression darkened. Send an order from me to have Ling Jing get up immediately and send word to Chu Qinghuang to enter the palace. Yan Luo hesitated. The eldest princess has just left the palace. If I call her here now, I'm afraid I am her mother. Does she even want to disobey her own mother-in-law? Concubine Duan was furious. This is simply inappropriate. Yes. Yan Luo lowered his head and said respectfully, I will ask someone to pass it on immediately. Who are you passing on to? His Majesty the Emperor, dressed in a bright yellow dragon robe, walked in and asked with a smile, who is my concubine angry with? The palace servants knelt on the ground to welcome the holy master. Concubine Duan was startled, and immediately put on a gentle smile, stood up and went forward to greet him. Why didn't anyone let anyone know that the emperor was coming? I can't even greet the emperor. Do I still need these false gifts from you? The emperor sat down on the Yunjin soft couch and took the teacup presented by Yan Luo. What happened? Concubine Duan waved her hand away and sat down next to the emperor. Not Qing Huang? This daughter was born to defeat me. Didn't Qing Huang just make a great contribution? The emperor was surprised. What did she do to make you so angry? Babies, new books need care. Data and your comments are the author's greatest creative motivation. During this period of time, Huang will work hard to code and update a lot. She also hopes that the children will try not to save articles and create a more attractive reading data for this book. P.S. This book is a 1v1 game between men and women. In the early stage, the heroine is engaged in career and is mainly sassy. There are many types of online articles, and there are many routines. Long stories with millions of words will inevitably conflict with other books. Huang can only guarantee that every word is a plot that he has thought up with his heart and typed it out with his own hands. There is no guarantee that it will be completely different from other books. If there are readers who are familiar with the style of writing, the one they have read before might be written by me. That's it. Window. Tabula equals window. Tabula. Tabula.push, mode, thumbspeed -01, container, tabula below article thumbnail -300x250, placement, below article thumbnail -300x250, target. Type, mix. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 66. I haven't seen my family for a long time. Aren't you busy today? I suddenly remembered that Ling Jing was not married yet, so I asked him to come into the palace to talk. Concubine Duan said lightly, who would have expected that? So neither did I wait, nor did you wait. I thought he was being lazy, but after asking, I found out that I met Qing Huang on the way. The emperor was puzzled. What happened when I met Qing Huang? Concubine Duan was furious. Ling Jing made her angry for some reason. Qing Huang actually ordered Ling Jing to kneel down on the palace road. It's simply outrageous. The emperor was quite surprised after hearing this, and then he laughed. It's normal for young people to have some friction. It's not like you don't know King Huang's temper. He has been like this since he was a child. The Ling family boy is a man anyway, with a thick skin. The meat is rough, and he will kneel down for a while, and a piece of his flesh will be indispensable. The emperor is right. Concubine Duan sighed. I don't feel sorry for Ling Jing, but I am worried that Qing Huang has just made great achievements and does not know how to restrain himself. If the truth is revealed, the officials in the court will inevitably be impeached. What is there to worry about? Qing Huang has not been impeached once or twice since he was a child. I have long been used to it. The emperor picked up the teacup and took a sip. Thinking of King Huang's recent affairs, his mood obviously improved. I think King Huang's temper has calmed down a lot recently. He handles things in a decent manner and is not as impulsive as before. This is a good thing. After a pause, he shook his head and said with a smile, I can't restrain myself anymore. If I am as timid and fearful as those princes, who can I expect to do my errands for me? Concubine Duan's expression paused slightly, her hand holding the veil tightened, and then she said with a smile, she is a daughter's family after all, and she will get married sooner or later. Although it is her duty to share the emperor's worries, she has offended too many people. Which man will dare to marry her in the future? Qing Huang doesn't rely on men to support her, so what's there to worry about? The emperor was quite tolerant of this point. At worst, I'll choose a few more beautiful servants for her to satisfy her preference for handsome men. When Concubine Duan heard this, she almost couldn't keep the smile on her face. Concubine Duan squeezed the handkerchief tightly and controlled herself not to lose her composure. She simply couldn't believe that these words came from the emperor's mouth. A dignified princess of a country raised a male favorite in the palace openly, was deviant and shameless, and the emperor actually still supported her? Compared to Qing Huang, Tianyan is more irritating. The emperor put down the teacup and couldn't help but feel a little gloomier. The good Princess Jin was gone at the last word. I don't know how he managed the palace. The Qi family was the emperor's daughter-in-law, and the fact that she had an affair with someone was really hard for him to talk about. What's more, what was more important now than the fact that there was no proof of death was how to explain it to the king of Zhenbei. If King Zhenbei asks about this matter, he will say that the princess died of illness, and he will not dare to challenge the emperor. Concubine Duan said lightly, besides, the Qi family was at fault first. Even if they really want to be investigated, a corrupt person, if the charges against the reputation of the royal family are taken, King Zhenbei will have to plead guilty. Hearing this, the emperor nodded slowly. What you said makes sense. Your Majesty. Concubine Duan hesitated for a moment and then spoke tentatively. Qing Huang is my concubine's daughter. I still hope that she can be a well-behaved woman, marry well, and serve her parents-in-law. With King Huang's temper, no one dares to let her serve His Majesty. The emperor laughed. Aren't you afraid that she will be whipped and her head will explode? Concubine Duan's smile narrowed slightly. Can we still communicate normally? There is no need to worry about King Huang's marriage for the time being. She is only 15 years old. I am still counting on her to clean up the court for me. The emperor had his own plan. After the palace examination next year, I will pay attention to see if there is any without suitable young talents. Family background is not important. The most important thing is Tou King Huang's temper. Since Qing Huang is to use her fists and kicks to clean up the court, she cannot be allowed to marry a child of a powerful family, otherwise it will only make the powerful family powerful. Only when Chu Qing Huang worked alone did the emperor dare to delegate unlimited power to her. Once the royal family and the aristocratic family became related by marriage, he would have to worry about the exclusive power of his relatives. At that time, he would inevitably be tied up and hesitant to look forward and backward. At least until his goal is achieved, Qing Huang will not be considered for marriage. Concubine Duan just wanted to test the emperor's attitude today. After hearing this, she already knew something in her heart and secretly resented not marrying Chu Qing Huang to Ling Jing earlier. We can only suspend our plans for now. Concubine Duan, you should have heard about that boy from the Feng family. Concubine Duan was silent for a moment. The emperor is talking about Feng Jinzi. Yes, the emperor smiled faintly. Qing Huang is indeed a bit outrageous this time. He will divorce his husband as soon as he divorces his husband. How can he let the dignified Feng family's legitimate son kneel and kowtow to go back? After all, the prime minister is also a high-ranking official. That is, Qing Huang dares to lose the Feng family's face like this. Concubine Duan nodded. The legitimate son of the Feng family has suffered some grievances. Tomorrow morning, I have to comfort him. The emperor sighed, relaxed his body and leaned on the soft couch, lazily closing his eyes. Fortunately, King Huang's merits outweigh her faults, so I won't reprimand her. It's okay to break off the relationship with Feng Jinzi. Feng Jinzi is not worthy of my daughter. Although he was reprimanding, there was no hint of anger in his tone. He even felt that Qing Huang did this very beautifully, and there was a faint feeling of pride. Concubine Duan smiled considerately on her face, but the smile did not reach her eyes. It is a good thing for her that Chu Qing Huang can be reused by the emperor. At least it can help pave the way for Tianzheng, but if her beloved concubine can't even make the decision about her daughter's marriage, it will obviously not be a happy thing. Concubine Duan remained silent and had to give up the idea of discussing with the emperor about marrying Qing Huang to Ling Jing. It was useless to discuss with the emperor, and she couldn't come up with any satisfactory results. She had to think of other ways. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 67. Whether it was Ling Jing who met by chance in the palace or Chu Yuling who stopped her carriage on the street, Chu Qinghuang had forgotten them all. Back at the princess mansion, the 4 servants were still kneeling in the courtyard of Dongshang Pavilion. Chu Qinghuang stood in the corridor, looking at the 4 handsome figures, and was silent for a long time. In addition to their outstanding appearance, these 4 people also seemed to have good physical strength. They had knelt for such a long time, but they did not show signs of fatigue. From a distance, everyone looks relaxed. Chu Qinghuang walked over and said calmly, "Have you thought of how to explain it to me?" Hearing the sound, the 4 people turned their heads to look at each other, bowed their heads respectfully and saluted, "See you, Your Highness. The etiquette is quite good." Chu Qinghuang said calmly, "I am in a good mood tonight. I will give you one last chance. If there is still no explanation, you will no longer have a chance to speak until tomorrow morning." Hong Yu blinked, "Your Highness, you mean that if we don't have a reasonable explanation, we will continue to kneel until tomorrow morning? Do you still need to ask? That must be what you mean." Qi Ling glanced at him, "You are really stupid." Hong Yu was dissatisfied, "You're not stupid, why haven't you come up with a reasonable explanation until now?" Qi Ling was speechless for a moment. "Who says I don't have a reasonable explanation? I just want to experience the feeling of being punished by kneeling." "You are sick." Hong Yu frowned and looked at Chu Qinghuang pitifully. His beautiful face looked particularly endearing. "Your Highness, my knees hurt from kneeling." Chu Qinghuang said calmly, "Obviously it's not painful enough." Hong Yu pouted, "It's all Zhang Zongjin's fault. Why do you blame me? It's not like I asked you to wear these expensive materials." Zhang Zongjin sneered, "You are so vain, and you dress up like a peacock with its wings spread, but you actually put the blame on me. It's simply ridiculous." Chu Qinghuang started to walk away. "Your Highness, wait," Hong Yu spoke quickly, seeking leniency for confessing, "Zhang Zongjin is the owner of a silk and satin shop. He gave us all our clothes without asking for money." Chu Qinghuang paused slightly and turned his head to look at the 4 people. All 4 heads nodded in unison. "Reporting to Your Highness, the villain's mother passed away early, leaving several shops for the villain to take care of." Zhang Zongjin explained, his tone sounded particularly sincere. "The villain has a silk and satin shop in his hands, with all kinds of fabrics in the shop. We have them all, but some of the particularly expensive materials are relatively small. His Highness has a distinguished status. Although we are just His Highness's servants, we don't dare to dress too shabbily for fear of losing His Highness's face, so." Afraid of losing the face of this palace, Chu Qinghuang raised her lips, "So you all dress up as if you are entering the palace for a talent show." Zhang Zongjin coughed lightly, "After all, you are serving the king, so you still have to fight for favor." Chu Qinghuang believed him. Zhang Zongjin is the concubine of the Shen family. His father is Shen Yan, the imperial censor of the dynasty. It is said that he is upright and hates evil. When Chu Qinghuang kidnapped Shen Zongjin to serve as the emperor's servant, this censor Shen made 7 or 8 mistakes, impeaching the 7th princess for her disobedient and lawless behavior. It's a pity that Chu Qinghuang at that time had a bad temper. The more he impeached, the more arrogant Chu Qinghuang became. After taking Zongjin over, he would rather leave him in the backyard to fend for himself than let him go free. The emperor protected his daughter, and Shen Yushi could not do anything about it. Later, when he saw that there was nothing he could do with her, he slowly calmed down. Chu Qinghuang thought about it for a moment and felt that Shen Yushi was a pretty good official. Zhong Yun, the eldest son of the Shen family, was calm and talented. He was different from a playboy like Wen Li. He wasn't too narrow-minded. He didn't seem to have any feelings for this younger brother. Treat harshly. As for Zongjin's deceased biological mother, she was just a concubine of Shen Yushi, so naturally Chu Qinghuang had no interest in knowing about her. But no matter what, she was given an explanation in the end, even if this explanation sounded like it took 4 people's brains to come up with it. Chu Qinghuang was extremely gracious and allowed them to get up and rest. On April 18, someone held a Ku Shui Shui Shang poetry party in the suburbs. Wen Zhan went with me. Wen Zhan nodded, yes. On the day of Wen Xingyun's birthday, Her Royal Highness the Princess's protection of Wen Zhan was obvious to all. These 2 days were the time when the new favorite was in the spotlight. At least he should behave like this in front of outsiders, lest people think that he, the bastard of the Wen family, fell out of favor just after he was favored. Your Highness, I want to go too. Hong Yu spoke expectantly. I heard that there are many talented people and beauties at the Kulia River poetry party. The men are handsome and the women are beautiful. I want to see them. Chu Qinghuang looked at him expressionlessly and walked away. Hong Yu frowned. Did His Highness agree or not? The 4 of them were finally able to get up. Although their physical fitness was relatively good and they were not unable to hold on, they were still mortal bodies. Their knees hurt from kneeling for so long, and their movements were a bit sluggish when they stood up. Rubbing his knees carefully, Hong Yu's eyebrows knitted together in pain. Your Highness doesn't know how to show mercy at all. Love the fragrance and cherish the jade. Qi Ling glanced at him. What stupid things are you talking about in broad daylight? The main reason for the eldest princess is to be compassionate and cherish the jade. The princess's mansion is probably going to be overcrowded. It's already dark, Kurha retorted. It's dark and it's not bedtime yet, so it's still early to dream, Qi Ling said. Don't always talk unrealistically in your sleep. You still have to have dreams, maybe they will come true someday, Hong Yu sneered. When I get the favor of His Highness, just stop clinging to me. Wen Zhan sighed, I wish you all the best soon. He turned and left. Hong Yu, you can do it. Chen Zongjin patted his shoulder and encouraged him, I believe in you. Qi Ling looked at Hong Yu silently and said earnestly, Hong Yu. I know what you are going to say. Hong Yu interrupted him, a man is determined to win favor. Don't worry, I will not give up until I reach the Yellow River, and I will definitely win the favor of His Highness in this life. Qi Ling. His heart is admirable. Qi Ling, are you going to the Ku Shui Liu's hang poetry meeting? Hong Yu frowned and thought for a while. I really want to go. It is said that many noble sons and daughters of Ziki families are particularly fond of these activities. There will be many people participating in the poetry meeting on the day, and it will be very lively, and as long as His Highness is there, there will be good shows to watch. Hong Yu thought of the people who had been disciplined by Chu Qinghuang recently, and the young master of the family who was afraid of Chu Qinghuang, and couldn't help but feel a little restless. His Highness has already said that Wen Zhan will accompany her, Qi Ling said calmly. You just stay in the mansion and guard the empty room. Window. Tabula equals window. Tabula. Tabula.push, mode, thumbs feed -01, container, tabula below article feed, placement, below article feed, target. Type, mix. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 68. On April 18, the weather was clear and cloudless. The air at the foot of the mountain outside the imperial city was fresh, the view was wide, and the environment was beautiful. Chu Qinghuang arrived in the suburbs in a carriage. Fu Kang sat in front of the carriage in black, and Wen Zhan, who had just won the new favor, had the honor of sitting in the carriage with Chu Qinghuang. Although they were in the same carriage, Wen Zhan automatically kept a safe distance from His Highness. Even if he tried his best to win favor in front of outsiders, he would never take the initiative to get close to Chu Qinghuang when he was alone. All the favor was for outsiders to see. He knew in his heart that no matter how crazy the princess was, at least Chu Qinghuang was not interested in men and women at all. Arriving at the outskirts of the city, the two got off the carriage one after the other. The flowing blue robe made Wen Gongzi look elegant and graceful. As soon as he got off the carriage, he attracted a lot of eyes to stay, Such eyes were more curious or playful, rather than amazing. Chu Qinghuang looked up, and all she could see were green mountains and clear waters. Pavilions and towers stood at the foot of the mountain, and many tables and chairs were placed on the flat and spacious grass. Young men and ladies gathered in groups of 3 or 2, chatting or laughing. One of the women surrounded by many noble ladies was the 6th Princess Chu Yuling, who had arrived in advance. There were both new and familiar faces among the men, but most of them were familiar faces, all dressed in gorgeous clothes and noble and elegant. A stream meandered down from the foot of the mountain, with huge lotus leaves floating on the stream, and cushions for people to sit on were placed on both sides of the stream. Pretty maids in pink clothes were shuttling between the banquets, placing fine wine, delicacies, and fresh fruits on the table. "The princess is here!" someone shouted, and then it seemed as if even the air had quieted down. Whether they were chatting or preparing to recite poems, they all turned their heads to look at Chu Qinghuang and Wen Zhan beside her. Chu Qinghuang's eyes turned slightly, with a subtle expression. Among the men who came today, there were several faces who had a connection with her, such as Wen Li, the eldest son of the Wen family. Although Chu Qinghuang did not really send people to check on Wen Li's injuries the day after Wen Xingyun's birthday, Wen Xingyun did not dare to fool her, and Wen Li must have been severely punished that day. After a few days of rest, the injuries should be almost healed. In addition to Wen Li, a few of his friends who were with him that day also showed up. The Kushui Liu's Hang Poetry meeting is one of the favorite activities of the noble ladies and young men of Ziki. It is not surprising that so many people came today. There was also an acquaintance in the crowd, Feng Jinzi, who was divorced and returned home by Chu Qinghuang. Originally thought that he would not be able to face people in a short time, but did not expect to underestimate his courage. Chu Qinghuang's eyes stayed on his face for a short time. After resting at home for a few days, Feng Jinzi looked good today, much more energetic than the day he left the princess's mansion. Slowly turning her sight, Chu Qinghuang soon saw Ling Jing, who had a little unpleasantness with her. In addition, Chu Yuling, who wanted to get rid of her as soon as possible. Chu Qinghuang suddenly realized that during the period after waking up from the original owner, she seemed to have disciplined a lot of people. She didn't feel anything before, but today all the young men and ladies gathered together, and she realized what it meant to have enemies on a narrow road. All the enemies she had disciplined came today. "Your Highness, Princess, Mr. Wen." After a period of silence, someone soon came up enthusiastically, "The food and drinks are ready, and everyone has arrived. We are waiting for your Highness, Princess." Chu Qinghuang nodded, raised her feet and walked over silently. Wen Zhan walked to Chu Qinghuang's side, suddenly coughed lightly, and said in a low voice, "Today's scene seems a bit dangerous, your Highness must pay attention to personal safety. With too many enemies, it is inevitable that villains will plot against you, so you must be careful." Chu Qinghuang glanced at him calmly without making any comment. Seventh sister Chu Yuling shook off the many noble ladies who surrounded her, walked over with a gentle smile on her face, and reached out to take Chu Qinghuang's hand. "There are so many people here today, and they are all waiting for you." Chu Qinghuang looked indifferent and distant, and was indifferent to her kindness. She hated being hypocritical and polite to such a hypocritical person. She hated her in her heart and wanted to kill her immediately, but she had to maintain a sisterly appearance on the surface. Didn't she feel tired? "Don't you like people to kneel down to talk to you?" a woman said indifferently, with a hint of sarcasm on her pretty face. "So many people came today, do you need to greet your Highness one by one?" As soon as this was said, the others were shocked at the same time. The first person to make trouble with the eldest princess was Ling Shui, the daughter of the Ling family. Aren't Ling Shui and Chu Qinghuang cousins? Ling Shui is the niece of concubine Duan, and Chu Qinghuang is the daughter of concubine Duan. Even if other people are not on good terms with Chu Qinghuang, Ling Shui should stand on Chu Qinghuang's side. Why did she start to mock Chu Qinghuang as soon as she arrived? Was she doing this on purpose, or was she really dissatisfied with Chu Qinghuang? Everyone looked at each other, and the noble ladies who didn't know the inside story were suspicious and observed the reaction of the violent princess calmly. But most of the men present understood what was going on. Chu Qinghuang naturally knew where Ling Shui's hostility came from. She looked at Ling Shui calmly. The pretty woman was standing up for Ling Jing. I do like people to kneel down to talk, Chu Qinghuang said in a cold tone, with a frosty look in her eyes, especially you. Ling Shui's face changed, and she subconsciously clenched her hands. Kneel down. Ling Shui's face turned pale. Chu Qing. Dare you to call me by my name? Chu Qinghuang's tone was a little colder. Do you believe that I will make you kneel until tomorrow morning? Ling Shui's expression froze instantly. The temperature in the air seemed to drop suddenly, and the noble ladies were awed and unconsciously tightened the handkerchiefs in their hands. Your Highness, the Princess Ling Jing came over and put his hand behind Ling Shui. A hint of condemnation appeared on his sickly pale face. Today's poetry gathering should be lively and cheerful. Please don't ruin the atmosphere here, Your Highness. So this is her reason for committing a crime. Chu Qinghuang's tone became colder and colder. Did I give you face? Ling Jing's expression darkened, and he lowered his head and said, I apologize to Your Highness on behalf of my sister. Window. Tabula equals window. Tabula. Tabula.push, mode, thumbs feed -01, container, tabula below article thumbnail -300x250, placement, below article thumbnail -300x250, target. Type, mix. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 69. Ling Shui is guilty, why should you apologize? Doesn't she have a mouth? Chu Qinghuang's eyebrows were cold, and his beautiful face was filled with coldness. I say it again, kneel down. Ling Shui bit her lip, and her beautiful face was filled with embarrassment. If Aunt Duanfei knew. Chu Qinghuang said coldly, you can just move out of the Queen Mother and see if I will buy it. Ling Shui gritted her teeth and secretly regretted that she couldn't keep her temper. She shouldn't have provoked Chu Qinghuang in front of so many people, but when she thought of how she made Ling Jing kneel on the palace road where people were coming and going a few days ago, she felt I can't swallow this breath. Isn't it because of the protection of Aunt Duanfei and the Ling family that Chu Qinghuang can achieve today's prestige and honor? If concubine Duan hadn't been favored over the years, with Chu Qinghuang's temper, she would have gone to see the king of hell long ago. How would he have the chance to boss her around? However, in the final analysis, the reason why my aunt has been favored so far is because the Ling family is in charge of 200,000 troops. Without the support of the Ling family, even Aunt Duanfei would be unable to move in the palace, let alone Chu Qinghuang, who has no brains at all. Princess. Why should she stand here and humiliate her? Seventh sister Chu Yuling smiled and tried to smooth things over, her elegance belonging to a royal princess clearly displayed. Today is a happy day. Miss Ling just made an honest mistake and did not mean to offend seventh sister. Lord seventh sister has a lot of people, don't follow her. Miss Ling usually cares about it, otherwise it would be difficult for concubine Duan in the palace, right? Chu Qinghuang looked at her calmly, with a cold and distant attitude. Although the young men and noble ladies around them did not speak, they could not help but compare the sixth princess with the seventh princess. There is no doubt that for men in the world, gentle and generous women will always have the greatest advantage. Regardless of who is right or wrong in this matter, the weak have already been given preconceived sympathy and bias. And Chu Qinghuang, who has always acted wildly and unruly, has an irritable and unruly temperament, originally had a bad impression in everyone's mind, and recently his behavior has made people even more frightened and fearful. When a man has feelings such as fear and fear towards a woman, naturally represents a kind of disgust and rejection that they themselves are not aware of. This world belongs to men, and women should learn to be docile and obedient. A woman who is too strong will only make people unhappy. So when Chu Yuling said these words to smooth things over, the others naturally expressed their opinions. The sixth princess is right, Miss Ling didn't do it on purpose. Why should Her Royal Highness the eldest princess care about a weak woman? If concubine Duan knew that Her Royal Highness the eldest princess had a dispute with Miss Ling, she would not be happy at all. Today is a lively poetry party. It's not easy for everyone to get together. You should be happy. Why get angry over a trivial matter? It is indeed a trivial matter. Her Royal Highness the Princess has a broad mind. Just treat Miss Ling as saying something wrong. However, until now, Miss Ling has not expressed a single apology for what she said wrongly when Jean stood beside Chu Qinghuang and spoke unhurriedly to interrupt everyone's persuasion. This matter today is not Miss Ling's. What I said is wrong, but the Ling family relies on their military power and does not pay attention to Her Royal Highness the eldest princess. This is a conscious mistake. There is no distinction between superiority and inferiority. If it is serious, it can even be said to be contempt of the imperial power. Don't you think is Miss Ling's attitude right? As soon as these words came out, everyone seemed to have their necks suddenly strangled, and all sounds stopped for an instant. The sky is peaceful and the earth is quiet. Everyone had different expressions, but there was no doubt that they were all a little uneasy. Contempt the imperial power. The weight of these 4 words is too heavy, and no one present can bear such accusations. There was a smile on Wen Zhan's lips. If Miss Ling really said something wrong unintentionally, then she should kneel down sincerely at this time, apologize to His Highness sincerely, and ask for his forgiveness. This is what a monarch and his ministers should do. The rules of respect should not be disrespected in the slightest. Ling Shui's expression changed little by little, and the handkerchief in her hand was almost torn. If you rely on the crowd to persuade you to make peace, you try to make this matter a trivial matter. If you make it a trivial matter, it will only give people the illusion that Ziki's laws and regulations are just decorations, and rules can also be used for bargaining. This kind of thinking it's obviously very scary. When Jean smiled calmly, will you be able to bargain like this in front of the emperor in the future? After the words fell, the surroundings finally fell into dead silence. The faces of those present were green and white, and not long after, the people who had spoken just now were afraid, fearing that the wrong words they said would cause Chu Qinghuang to take revenge and follow in the footsteps of the Hong family. After all, the lesson had just passed a few days ago, and those present today still remember Chu Qinghuang's ruthless character, which really angered her, and she didn't know what she was going to do again. Ling Shui is the niece of concubine Duan and the cousin of Chu Qinghuang. No matter how angry His Highness is, it is impossible to really vent his anger on his mother's family. The unlucky ones will be those who support her. Several people became more and more uneasy as they thought about it, so calls for forgiveness soon rang out from the scene. Mr. Wen is right. I just didn't think it through carefully. Please forgive me for my faux pas. A man bowed his head respectfully and said, after I go back, I will reflect behind closed doors and warn myself that I will never do anything in the future make this mistake again. I just made a mistake with my words. Please forgive me, Your Royal Highness, the eldest princess. Please forgive me, Your Royal Highness, Princess. So all of a sudden, the men who had said the wrong thing bowed their heads to apologize. The slap in the face really came too fast, like a tornado. Before Chu Qinghuang even started to feel relieved, they were all terrified to death. Chu Yuling smiled and was not surprised at all, as if the scene in front of her had nothing to do with her. Ling Shui's face turned pale a little bit. I have always been kind and don't like to be rude to weak women, Chu Qinghuang said, touching the whip on her waist, but if necessary, I don't mind being rude to your flowery face. Add 2 scars. Ling Shui's expression suddenly changed. Your Highness, the eldest Princess Ling Jing's eyes were narrow and his voice was deep. It won't be good for you if things get serious. I will apologize to your Highness and promise to teach my sister a lesson when I go back. I hope your Highness will let her go this time. Is it bad for me if things get serious? Chu Qinghuang said calmly. Where do you start talking about this? Ling Jing pursed his lips and was silent for a moment. As an elder brother who has lax family rules, Ling Shui is at fault. It is also my responsibility as an elder brother. I am willing to accept the punishment of being a princess. Really? Chu Qinghuang smiled sarcastically. In that case, kneel down and apologize to me, and slap yourself 20 times. After the words fell, the gentlemen and ladies all took a step back, with strange expressions on their faces. Not even sparing her mother's nephew, does Her Royal Highness, the eldest princess, intend to offend everyone and make everyone in the world an enemy. He is indeed a ruthless person. Window. Tabula equals window. Tabula. Tabula.push, mode, thumbs feed -01, container, tabula below article thumbnail -300x250, placement, below article thumbnail -300x250, target. Type, mix. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 70. Ling Jing's face suddenly became extremely gloomy. The atmosphere around was also very tense. Chu Yuling lowered her eyes, hiding the cold smile in her eyes. And Ade was right. She didn't need to confront Chu Qinghuang in person. As long as she provoked these brainless people to anger Chu Qinghuang, she would not be afraid that her violent temper would offend people. If she offended too many people, even if she was the eldest princess, there would always be a day when she would capsize in the ditch. What's more, the brothers and sisters of the Ling family were all nephews of concubine Duan's mother's family. Chu Qinghuang had dealt with them today. Tomorrow, no, tonight concubine Duan would summon Chu Qinghuang to the palace for questioning. If Chu Qinghuang was filial, she would naturally have to endure this grievance. If she didn't accept it, then the mother-daughter relationship between her and concubine Duan would deteriorate. In this way, it would be too easy to alienate their relationship. Chu Qinghuang was still the brainless Chu Qinghuang. What if she was named the eldest princess? As long as her violent temper didn't change, sooner or later she would be deserted by everyone and become a thorn in everyone's eyes and flesh. Your Highness, the Princess Ling Jing raised a smile and looked at Chu Qinghuang with a cold look in his eyes. Ling Shui doesn't know the rules. I have apologized to the princess on her behalf. I hope the princess can do it for Aunt Duan's sake. This is a matter between me and her. Why do you like to bring up other people? Chu Qinghuang raised her eyebrows. If I ask you to give my father a face and kneel down, will you do it? Ling Jing froze and knelt down in silence. I dare not disrespect the emperor. I am the princess appointed by the emperor. Chu Qinghuang reminded him word by word, and also reminded everyone present, if you disrespect me, you are disrespecting the emperor. If you don't accept it, I can take you to Yogan Palace to argue. When the voice fell, everyone present was shocked. Please calm down, princess. Why would such a small matter alarm the emperor? Otherwise, Miss Ling should apologize to the princess. The princess is of noble status, and it was Miss Ling who offended her first. Yes, it is our honor that the princess has the honor to attend the Ku Shui Liu's Hang Poetry meeting today, but Miss Ling spoke with a sharp tongue right from the start, and offended the princess in front of so many people. How could the princess not be angry? Ling Shui's face was pale and blue, and she couldn't believe that these people were changing their attitudes according to the wind, and their faces changed faster than turning a book. Seventh sister Chu Yuling spoke unwillingly, with a gentle smile, a kind and considerate look. Young Master Ling is the cousin of the seventh sister and the nephew of concubine Duan. General Ling holds military power and has a high prestige in the court. If young Master Ling is humiliated here today, General Ling and concubine Duan will not be happy after knowing it. Sure enough, the sixth princess was empathetic and sensible, and everyone nodded secretly. Obviously, the Feng family has suffered a lot of humiliation recently. The Hong family was confiscated by the seventh princess herself. Feng Jinzi was divorced by the seventh princess and sent back home. She knelt all the way back in public. However, the sixth princess, the daughter of concubine Feng, did not bear grudges at all. She persuaded the seventh princess everywhere. Who can not like such a broad mind and such a temper? Unlike the seventh princess, who was unforgiving and fierce and cold, she either made this person kneel or that person kneel, and whipped and slapped people at any time. She was simply the most cruel princess in the world. They were both daughters of the emperor, so why was there such a big difference? Chu Qinghuang's eyes turned slightly. Whether it was acquaintances or noblemen and ladies of noble families who had never met, they all met her eyes at this time, respectful and humble, but their thoughts betrayed their inconsistency. She knew that Chu Yuling's words were adding fuel to the fire. One was to remind Ling Shui intentionally or unintentionally that she didn't have to be afraid. Others might be afraid of offending the seventh princess, but the Ling family didn't have to. With concubine Duan and Ling Ankan here, even King Chu Qinghuang can't do anything to her. The second is naturally to win favor. There are so many people at the poetry meeting today. All the officials of all ranks in the court who can be called famous and have sons and daughters of the right age in their families are almost here, because this is a rare occasion in the year, except for the Lantern Festival and the Kakiao Festival, when there is no need to overly care about the defense between men and women. Many sons like to show their talents, and many daughters are willing to let the royal family know their talents and knowledge in such occasions. The more people there are, the more discussions there are, plus the right time, right place, and right people. The sixth princess is gentle, and the seventh princess is strong. The sixth princess is considerate, and the seventh princess is cold and ruthless. The sixth princess is gentle and generous, and the seventh princess will take revenge. All kinds of performances can make these people present unconsciously start to take sides, and Chu Qinghuang will fall into a situation surrounded by hostility. It's a pity that there is a saying that a higher official can crush people. Chu Qinghuang's identity and temper meant that she would not care about the hostility of these people, so Chu Yuling's little calculation could only be in vain. I've been feeling a little itchy recently. Chu Qinghuang lowered her eyes, stroking the black whip tied around her waist with her slender hands. Wenjian, do you think I should pull someone out to whip and vent my anger, or should I just take people to search the house? The air condensed, and everyone's face changed suddenly. Reporting to Her Royal Highness, I heard that the treasury is still not very abundant recently. Wenjian lowered his head. I think it's more appropriate to search the house. First, the silver seized can make the emperor happy, and maybe Her Royal Highness can be given a higher title. Second, Her Royal Highness can also vent the frustration she suffered today, so that some brainless people can remember it well. As soon as the voice fell, a series of clear and sharp sounds of dong, 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 dong rang out, and the people standing around knelt down instantly. Long live the princess, long live, long live. Long live the princess, mighty and domineering, unparalleled in the world. The princess is beautiful, both civil and military. Ling Shui and Chu Yuling looked at the scene in front of them, as if they were in the wind. Wenjian's mouth twitched slightly, and he maintained a gentle and calm smile on his face, but he couldn't help but despise these people who were smaller than mice. With such courage, they dared to point out the country in front of the princess. They couldn't be scared to death. Wenjian, who really experienced the fun of the fox pretending to be powerful, sighed in his heart. It's good to have a noble status and strong ability. If it were someone else today, he would be besieged by so many people and would never be able to make such a perfect counterattack even if he didn't cry. Power is really a good thing. With strong enough skills to support the status and power, it is even more indestructible. Wen Zhan raised his eyes and saw Feng Jinzi standing in the pavilion not far away. He looked at the scene here expressionlessly. It was unknown whether he didn't want to meet Chu Qinghuang or he was still afraid of Chu Qinghuang and didn't dare to confront her head-on for the time being, so he stood there quietly and watched everything happening here with cold eyes. Window. Tabula equals window. Tabula. Tabula.push, mode, thumbspeed -01, container, tabula below article thumbnail -300x250, placement, below article thumbnail -300x250, target. Type, mix.